The Beholders, Part 5.
The now identified past dweller removed his mask and dropped it to the ground.
Hello, traitor.
Why, kind one, I am your friend, remember?
Sure, that's why you kidnapped Alina, right?
You should never have gotten mixed up with that petty frag. She's ruined you.
Watch it, Nero. That's my lady you're talking about.
No matter, anyway. You'll not see her again.
What have you done?
Let's just say we are both lacking in the knowledge of the whereabouts of the Wanderer. She'll find a dead end soon enough.
As the exchange of words continued, Brisk began to ponder something. He would need a way to roam the rest of the treacherous way to find the others, as well as the time projector. But how? Tasan was here now. He won't be arranging any free reign of passage, unless...
So many pardons, Mr. Tasan. I have no quarrel with you. Please come inside and allow me to show you my history.
Do you take me for an inferior buffoon, John? You won't be conquering me that easily. I'd sooner turn you in.
With thoughts of dodging out from under the strong pressure grip of that notorious equal of equals, Brisk waited for just the right moment to make his move.
So if you've quite finished, I suppose I'll be off on my way then.
Brisk began walking swiftly past Tasan.
Halt!
Tasan held the staff in his path.
You're coming with me.
Brisk mulled a better approach.
Pardon?
I said, you're coming with me, kind one.
Sorry, a bit of water in me ears. Can you say that closer?
Listen, past dweller, and hear this well.
Tasan stooped down and repeated the instruction loudly into the man's ear. Before Tasan could straighten up, and not a shock space purpose to lose, Brisk reached into the pocket on his headgear and smacked the unsuspecting creature with one very sharp, very effective, and quite small paralyzer bug. As it hit Tasan's back, the bug instantly immobilized him, sending him smashing face first into the ground. And while seemingly defeated, the callous, vain, egocentric equal still marveled at his own reflection staring back at him from the glass floor. He found himself soothing and attractive. This disgusted Brisk and puzzled him as well. How could a servant to such a strict and merciless tyranny be so self-absorbed when he would surely fry for his failure? But there wasn't enough time to harp on such things. Brisk needed to change his status, and quick. Brisk dragged Tasan by his ankles into the little hideaway. Neither of them said a word, save for some odd chuckling coming from Tasan. About 10 minutes later, Brisk re-emerged, adorned in the armor of the equals. Red sandals, white tunic, with sapphire trim, and a banner of honor, the spiral shell symbol, covered in precious jewels. Brisk noticed the jewels made everything feel heavy. The helmet didn't quite fit right, so he decided to carry it under his arm. Bearing the mighty staff over his shoulder, the past dweller bid a fond farewell to his humble hole-in-the-wall abode and stomped away in stride. Floating above it all were channels of the self-appointed judges from the Everywhere clan. They had become aware of the failure of Tasan, and it only served to anger them further.
He who is merely mortal is parading the streets in an equal's identity. What shall we do to cease this unruly games?
Meanwhile, in another part of the great city, Alina was traveling incognito as one of the noble chanters of the royal court, where Jacasia's so-called judicial system thrived. She had been instructed not to have any contact with John Brisk or her son, who was also among the court, but placed randomly. It had been years since she saw her family, since she ran away. Her father wasn't exactly pleased to see her. He was a stoic sort who went by the book, or whenever possible, by the rules handed down constantly, willy-nilly from the higher-ups. She had a major lack of respect for him because of this. It was a boring job they'd given her. She would chant ancient poems to relax the royal judges, as well as the equal guards, who would be the most tense after a day of what they refer to as hard labor. She often argued with the judges over cases regarding unfair treatment of bondservants. They were, after all, her people. But it was useless, because her social status didn't enable a detour in their immovable decisions. Now, free of worry and paranoia, John Crone Brisk moved through the city unnoticed, untagged, and with a generous amount of energy. He wasn't sure what he should do next. Maybe go back to Dr. Baeda. Perhaps look for the time projector. Rush into all the buildings and scare people. Nah. What he really wanted to do was search for his long-lost love, Alina Fable. He realized that with his new appearance, he could swing this whole hover globe around his finger. Well, figuratively, of course. It was a particularly lovely day in Jacasia. The sun was overhead and the breeze was calm. The trees were luscious and green, and they bared ruby-red fruit. Brisk felt terribly hungry, so he sat himself down on the edge of the fountain and helped himself to a bite. The taste was fresh and succulent. He admired the beauty of the land. He never really got to notice it before. He was always on the run. An inside-out city, but it had grassy areas, bushes, even a few small animals. A moth flew by as he finished his snack. Brisk got up and looked around one last time, and then continued his search. A great artificially constructed hill separated the court from the inner city. It was an isolated group of 5-story buildings, tilted forward in an oblique fashion. Many slanty windows reflected anything which moved on the flat, bricky, narrow walkways below. Surrounding the main building was a quaint little garden. Within it were synthetic trees and plants bearing fruit, and flowers which sometimes housed tiny robotic hummingbirds. The worst day ever for Alina Fable. A huge clog of bondservant cases, one after another, sentenced to confinement. And to make matters more unbearable, no matter how much she sweetened her tone, her chanting did not amuse the judges or the guards. In fact, she distinctly heard one of the prisoners tell her to be silent. The word traitor was also heard once or twice among the crowd, which only served to depress as well as anger her further. Alina was just wrapping up a grueling, eventful service when another chanter came rushing in and announced that a royal equal was about to arrive.
He comes in search of someone.
Who is this visitor?
I do not know.
The chanter shrugged their shoulders. Alina was listening in from behind a chair. She felt strangely drawn to this news buzzing about the courthouse. She wanted to be the first to see the new guest. That night, the judges decided to make a banquet for the arrival of the equal. Everything was set. The tables and chairs were laid out. The food was ready, and the speaking stage was decorated with blue and white streamers. The chanters, too, were preparing. They stood waiting for the signal. Alina was not among them, though. She had slipped away to a secret place high above the court. A small room with a view of the entire stadium-sized court cast. She sat in, watching the show unfold. The royal equal waltzed his way past the enormous double door. The crowd of loyal bondservants, who were only allowed to attend at the behest of their masters, rose to the occasion and cheered. Everyone was present at the banquet. All the equals, the guards, the courtmen, bondservants, with every eye on the newcomer. The royal equal was escorted to the podium on the stage, where he made a short speech to a million blinking faces.
Fellow people of the land, I thank you for your gracious honors during my stay here. Your judicial law is most exemplary. I shall continue as your humble leader, as many have done before me. I ask only one thing in return. Tonight, I am searching for a lost bond servant. They may be among you. It is a woman. I come in search of Alina Fable.
The house gasped. Alina's mouth dropped open, and she felt so shaky that she nearly collapsed to the floor. This man was looking for her. Had she been marked? Did they discover her checkered past as a leader of the revolution? It was uncertain, but now it was imperative for her to meet the one who gave the speech. Presently, the entire courthouse was looking for Alina. The chanters scattered in every direction as the guards weeded through the whole lot. The royal equal stepped down from the podium and swam through the crowd to a secluded room away from the chaos. The other equals apologized to him for the disorder and assured peace would soon be restored, and a final word given that the girl would be delivered directly to him in no less than a day. With that, the equals bid him adieu. Alina remained in her secret viewing ground and observed the madness that had commenced at the mention of her name. She was also aware that they would all be hunting for her now. She didn't want to see the new man under a guard's bladed custody, so the only thing left to do was wait for the sun to rise. The girl, although exhausted, did not slumber that night. Instead, she stayed awake till dawn. Mornings in the courthouse were always quiet, and guards were usually patrolling outside. When it appeared the coast was clear, Alina climbed down from her height and began to wander. Again. There were many doors to many rooms, interconnecting corridors, and no traces of direction. Finding the room which kept the equal would be a difficult task, but she was determined. Slowly and softly, she walked the corridor. Just as she was analyzing one of the doors, seeing if it was open, along came a heavy-set judge shuffling in her direction. When Alina saw him coming, she quickly ran up the opposite hall. The judge was busy reading to himself. Alina's rustling made him stop. He looked in a couple of rooms but found nothing. Shrugging the situation, he toddled off. Alina's heart was racing full speed, and beads of sweat trickled down her nose. She soon calmed herself and breathed a sigh of relief. After searching high and low, she stumbled upon an unusual door, painted dark red with golden letters reading, Royal Chamber. She decided to give the handle a twitch, and to her surprise, it squeaked open. Inside, a scene of overwhelming luxury. Plush black seats, blue satin curtains, white silk sheets, and her feet became like sunken ships in a sea of red-orange, furry, Epicurean carpeting. The walls were corporate gray, and there was even a small chandelier hanging in the middle of the ceiling. Captivated amidst the glorious setting, Alina forgot about the open door behind her. The entrance was closed. Alina whirled around, just in time to see a man standing and staring at her with a smile.
So there you are.
Alina was a bit frightened at first, but as she zoomed in closer to the gentleman's face, her fears dissolved. Seemed he was really a past dweller in royal equals clothing.
John!
She rushed to him with her arms spread.
I thought you were dead.
Not yet, love.
They both embraced.
But what are you doing here? Don't you know the danger? If they found you out, you could get charged with impersonating an equal, and that's a crime punishable by death.
No worries. They won't find out anything. But you're going to have to play along in this new game. To them, I'm your keeper, and you're my bondservant.
Right.
Hey, by the way, where's our son?
Oh, he's somewhere in the court. His location and status was kept secret from me for cautionary reasons. Only Baeda can tell exactly where he is.
Envisioning high-rise freedom, the two reunited lovers formulated a plan of escape. But all too soon came a stumbling block. From beyond the door came the voices of the guards.
The girl will be found hiding somewhere throughout. Search every chamber!
We better get out of here.
But how? They sound like they're close.
As far as they know, I'm still an equal. Just follow my line.
Brisk opened the door slowly and emerged to greet two frustrated guards in the hall.
We still haven't found her, sir. If you...
Brisk pulled Alina into their view, making sure to play act. Gripping her by the arm roughly, she did her best to appear uncooperative and defensive.
Let me go, you tosser.
Alina struggled to get away.
Now you listen, then. You listen good, bondservant. You are my property, and that means I own you. If you're really good, I'll give you a toffee.
The guards lazily stared at them for a few minutes, mouthed a phrase that Brisk couldn't make out, bowed to him, and marched away. Brisk continued to shout commands at Alina until the guards were well out of sight.
Phew, that was close. For the time being, it may be a good idea if you wear me old disguise.
He handed the folded mask to Alina, and she put it on. Feeling it was time to move, they began making tracks. Alina was especially knowledgeable when it came to secret passages and hidden doors. So to leave the courthouse, the two crawled through a tiny tunnel underneath the main court's flooring. They finally came to a point of light, and upon moving a block of stone from the opening, exited outside. Brisk stepped out.
Where are we?
We're in the Golden Gardens, very near to the main gate. I think I made a mistake in my direction.
Well, can you get us to a safe place, or shall I expect more guards?
Halt, trespassers!
More guards.
I am the guardian of the Golden Gardens. Are you here to start a fire?
Now, don't be silly.
Brisk went back to pretending to treat Alina aggressively, as she did go along. They didn't want to be discovered.
I am a royal equal. Kneel before me or I'll strike you with my staff.
But a terrible surprise came to him. This guard didn't play that game. Instead, he ignored the ordering and became hostile in his tone. He even began nitpicking on them and showed virtually no respect whatsoever.
And who is this with you? A chanter? Out here? And you call yourself an equal? Ha ha ha! You distract me with amusement.
Why aren't you afraid of me?
Because, dear fellow, being a constant ear of this glorious city, I know certain facts about equals as well as their followers, and no equal has a nut's crumb of a wit to stroll through this garden of great beauty, pulling along a screaming hostage. And frankly, you don't smell right.
Well, let me ask you a question then. Are you in the know about a man by the name of John C. Brisk?
The notorious traitor of the servitude? I ask who hasn't. I fear nothing from him. He is but a menace from another time, and will eventually be stopped.
Hearing these words made Brisk's heart sink. Alina pulled him close to comfort him, not remembering the role she previously assumed. The guard watched this peculiar affection and had already decided he was being fooled somehow.
If I may contradict myself for a moment, I myself am also a menace from another time. I could easily sympathize with Mr. Brisk. You see, I came here from the future to save my father from his death. But we got separated after he was brutally beaten by a gang of anarchists. Since that time, I've been posted here. It is a quiet job, that is, until now.
Brisk caught a sharp glimpse of the guard. He was wearing a plain yellow cloth cape, Romanesque armor, but no helmet of any sort. After very careful analysis of the man, Brisk suddenly realized who the guard really was. Brisk imagined there would obviously be some risk involved in letting his identity out to this guard. But if it was truly who he thought it was, then there would be no danger, because a sense of honor and loyalty would replace any existing abhorrence. Brisk still felt uncertain.
Fine guardian of the Golden Gardens, I am this man you speak of.
You are?
Yes, my name is John Crone Brisk.
Are you such a fool as to allow me to know your identity without me first introducing myself?
Okay, who are you then?
Does a father know his own flesh and blood? I am little Jack.
Son, you're here!
Indeed, and you're there. And hello, Mum.
Alina took off the mask and handed it to Brisk.
I've been looking all over for you, Jack. So this is where you've been.
Yes, and I'm quite used to it. I'm sure you two need to be making skedaddle plans.
Yes, but if we go back to the underspace, we'll surely be detected.
By whom?
By those who currently do not possess a physical form. I haven't told you this before, John, but I have a special ability that enables me to look into the mind messages being sent from the beholders. They already know we're together.
That is trouble.
What's that?
Little Jack pointed to the mask his dad was holding.
Oh, you mean this?
Brisk handed it over.
Yes, not quite worthy of an award for disguises, but still better than a paper sack.
He tried on the odd-looking headgear.
Can't see a thing through here.
Indeed, I experienced the same problem, but I just...
Brisk appeared interrupted. He began to look extremely disturbed and held his head in anguish. The voice of the disembodied ones penetrated his mind with great strength. Brisk experienced something like an intense electrical shock running right through his brain. The volume was so earth-shattering that he thought he might go deaf.
Heed us well, past dweller. This will not be repeated. You will not succeed at escaping, or will our unity be broken.
Oh, can't you hear it?
No.
Little Jack's smile vanished.
What is it? What's wrong?
It's them again.
I don't hear anything.
The boy looked baffled. Just then, Brisk let out a scream and collapsed to the ground, writhing in agony.
Stop! Leave him alone!
If you do not return to your cage in the next hour, you and your companions shall face meaningful consequences. There is no mercy for you.
The intrusion lasted only 5 minutes, but to Brisk it seemed like eternity. He was now left lying on the ground with a feeling of acute disorientation. It took him a couple eye blinks to snap back to normal. Alina, who had been at his side through the whole ordeal, helped him to his feet.
Are you all right, John?
Brisk rubbed his forehead and caught his breath.
Yes, I think so.
All the while, little Jack had been meticulously examining the headgear.
It's most unusual that I should be the only one who couldn't hear them.
They both walked over. Brisk raised an eyebrow at the boy.
Were you wearing that thing during the attack?
Yes, that's exactly the case.
Great Lunas, I didn't think he'd finish it on time.
What are you talking about?
Oh, it's so simple. We've already won the revolution. John, I'm telling you, we've won. We've got them now. And it's all thanks to Dr. Baeda.
Good old fella. What has he done? Please, I'm not used to this instantaneous world of yours.
Alina took a deep breath and tried to slow down her explanation.
Dr. Baeda is the brilliance of Jakasia. He is the one who brought you through time. He's the one who can send you back. And he has now given you the answer to your dilemma. Next, you must tell the people.
Alina continued to tell Brisk the significance of the headgear and its true purpose.
We should leave for the underspace at once.
Shh! Someone's coming.
They scattered for a place to hide, and the boy frantically fidgeted with the headgear, finally tossing it to Brisk. Even though Brisk was still dressed as a royal equal, he knew the alarm would be sounded as soon as they found his reserved room empty.
Company servant, you there! Cease your movement! I've come to question you.
The approacher marched from the gate to the very edge of the steps leading to the courthouse.
Excuse me, sir, but you're standing on the royal flower bed.
Meanwhile, somewhere amongst the nicely arranged prickleberry trees, Brisk and Alina watched in dead silence. The approacher wore a uniform like a common equal guard, with one difference. The usual tidiness of any self-respecting equal wouldn't be seen as muddied as he. The footsteps of others echoed in the distance. They sounded like they were coming very close and at steady pace. This caused little Jack to act a tad nervous whilst conversing with the approacher.
Well, what's your question?
Little Jack snuck glimpses at a certain prickleberry tree.
I'm looking for two suspects. One is masquerading as a royal equal, the other is a female conspirator.
Oh, I didn't see anyone. That is, if they indeed decided to come here.
The approacher stood in thought, occasionally glancing suspiciously at the surrounding trees. Friend or enemy, it wasn't clear about this man. He seemed a bit less pushy than the other equals. Stranger still was his undignified manner. He kept admiring the garden and would appear to twitch ever so slightly, as if he felt compelled to twirl and shout for glee. These characteristics didn't fit someone belonging to royalty in that time.
Tell me something. Do you ever count these stairs?
Well, I never saw any reason to, sir.
I'd imagine not. Of course! Only an architect would find an interest in such things. It's fascinating how the builders used such a primitive design, and yet it works to carry several tons of plastimetal. So many circular steps placed together so finely. There are 100 in all, you know.
You counted them?
Yes, well, it should be plainly noticeable to anyone willing to spend enough time.
Little Jack was getting a little antsy.
I'm afraid I don't follow as to where this conversation is going, sir.
Please, please, enough of these formalities. Call me by my nickname, Arrow.
Brisk and Alina were much too far away to hear any part of the exchange of words taking place, so their impression remained the same. Little Jack, however, was now informed about the stranger's identity, although it left him quite shocked. Arrow had been missing for a long time, taken in the night by the equals and presumed dead.
You're alive!
Yes, I escaped, but I'm still a wanted man. And now, young chap, where are the other two?
They are hiding in the trees over there.
Little Jack pointed in his family's direction. In the eyes of Brisk and Alina, it seemed like a betrayal of trust on their son's part.
Why is he letting the equal know where to find us?
Don't rattle the branches. Maybe he won't see. I know our boy wouldn't do it without good reason, John.